Junior Gold Championships are the biggest youth event in the entire world. Every single year, there are thousands of youth bowlers who travel across the country to that year's host city to bowl for an entire week on some of the hardest patterns in the sport. The bowlers who compete in this tournament are the best of the best, the cream of the crop, if you will, and the ones that take it home are destined for greatness. We've seen many past winners go on to extremely prestigious universities and eventually bowl at the pro level. Just look at the past list of U18 winners, and a vast majority of them are either currently bowling at a blue blood or on the pro tour. But that's not really what I wanted to focus on today. Today, I want to go over everything about Junior Gold this year and give you my take on some of the more controversial sides of the event. I won't focus too much on my personal takeaways because if I'm honest about my performance, I bowled pretty terrible all week. Regardless, this tournament was hosted in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with the U18 boys competing at AMF Southtown and Lucky Strike Brooklyn Park. If that sounds familiar, it's because those are the same locations used in the WSOB this year. Format is very unique compared to most other youth tournaments, with the main qualifying consisting of 16 games bowled in 4-game chunks across 4 days of qualifying on 4 different patterns. Those aforementioned patterns are blind and they're not revealed until after the tournament is over, but you do get practice sessions on each pattern. You can also only check in 5 bowling balls, so many people had to make sacrifices to keep their most effective equipment in the bag for each pattern. After the 4 days, the first cut happens, and the top 8th advance to Advancers round to play another 5 games on a new pattern to try and make the top 64 for the second cut. This round also included another 5 games on a new pattern to try and make the top 16 for match play. The match play format is also pretty unique, copying the Masters. The top 16 are seeded with a winner's bracket and a loser's bracket. Only the top 3 seeds actually make it to the TV show, so things are always extremely tense during the last couple rounds. Similarly to the Masters, they play a 2-game total pinfall match to determine the winner. After all was said and done, the final match of match play determined the seeding, where the winner was the number 1 seed and the loser was the number 2. However, this is where things get a little controversial. The stepladder features just one title match game in a similar event style similar to PBA events. But this year, the format changed. This year, they did a double elimination styled title match. Made it so that if the number 1 seed lost, they would have to play another game. Now, this wouldn't be as much of a problem if the stepladder was just a top 5, but seeing as the stepladder was just top 3, this meant that losing the final match of match play in the winner's bracket meant playing 3 games for victory instead of just 1. This format was probably the worst part of the tournament in my opinion. Last year, this was not in play, and Clayton White, who came up through the loser's bracket, made it all the way to the title match and won. But this year, we saw Brett Biondo shoot a 278 with the front 9 in U18, and then win the first game against Clayton Washington, only to lose it all due to bad carry in the final game. Now, I'm not trying to downplay the insane skill of anyone who made it to the stepladder, far from it, but seeing as how this format worked in the Masters last year, and how it worked this year in Junior Gold, I just cannot support the double elimination format in the stepladder, no matter how fair it may seem to the person bowling as the number 1. It makes sense if they played it like a race to 2 or a 2-game total pinfall like match play, but the extra 2 games of transition killed some great runs in almost every division at some point or another. Just going from the list, U12 boys, Gleason Garski beat Colin Park in the second game. U16 girls, Michaela Presley beat Candice Van Tine. In U18, Clayton Washington beat Brett Biondo. We can see a clear pattern here. At least some point or another, that second game did make a big difference, because to go and bowl that second game, you have to have lost the first one. Now, I will say that there were other winners who did win from the double elimination match. However, I think it's more unfair when they lost than if they had won that second game. But format rant aside, let's get into the actual meat and potatoes of this tournament, because there is a lot to unpack from this whole week of bowling. Starting with the lanes themselves, Southtown and Lucky Strike bowled pretty different. Southtown had a lot of friction and free hook, while Lucky Strike basically didn't have any. As with all Junior Gold patterns, you had to be extremely precise with your targeting, and even more precise in your speed control. That's why you saw such a big performance drop between the two centers. There were a lot of people that couldn't get the ball to stop hooking at Southtown, and the opposite for Lucky Strike. As for the patterns, they don't release them until after competition, so we didn't actually get to see what we bowled on until after it finished. This year's patterns leaned pretty heavy on the medium to medium long side of things. Nothing as brutal as some of the crazy ones we've seen in the past, and when transition hit, the 5-ball limit became a huge problem. See, these bowlers would normally compete with 8 or more bowling balls in their arsenal for a regular tournament with multiple patterns. Now they're being forced to make big decisions about what pieces of equipment can cover the most ground across the 4 different looks. I talked to a few kids in qualifying blocks that had left some of their best gear at home because it just didn't make sense to fly up to 12 or more just so they could have it in the practice sessions. Because they only had 5 slots to work with, that decision ended up being a lot of who advanced and who didn't. Now let's talk about the tournament from the player's perspective, because the 16 games across 4 days with the tough patterns is a grind unlike anything else in youth bowling. Tournaments you grow up competing in are 5 to 8 games of qualifying before you have any advancers or match play. Junior Gold takes that upper end and turns it into a huge mental grind by doubling it. Any missed shot on day 1 can lead to a couple missed pins from the cut line after day 4. When you're doing it all without knowing what you're up against or where the cut line's gonna land, it can be very brutal, especially if there's a high scoring pattern that you don't do well on. And another big factor why a lot of people struggled is because this is a youth event and not all of us have the mental game to make it through it. But then after that came the 5 games of advancers, and the bowlers who made it definitely earned it. Because from there, the format trims very quickly. If you got out after advancers, that's no big deal, you still made it to advancers. 5 games of that led to the top 64, another 5 games for match play. When you consider that the advancers round 1 and 2 in a bit of match play are all on the same day, you'd realize just how insane this tournament can be. That could be up to 14 games on the same day if you bowled the entire thing. With 3 different patterns in that short of a window, that is probably the hardest part of the grind, and huge mentally. Some bowlers were incredible on the earlier looks where the gutters hooked all week, but then once you made it to advancers and match play, that started to change, especially with that match play pattern. The gutters stopped hooking, and mid lane became the best option. Now getting onto the experience of match play, I do have to give credit where it's due. The Masters style bracket that's been used pretty much every year with a winners and a losers is, my opinion, the best way to watch competitive bowling. There's just something about watching a run in the losers bracket that hits different. Watching bowlers have to claw their way all the way through that elimination with the winner go home mentality adds just another level of intensity that you just can't get from the winners bracket or pretty much anything else in youth bowling. So title match aside, I think this year's Junior Gold was a prime example of why this tournament remains the gold standard for youth bowling. The patterns were tough all the way through, and the format continued to test every part of a bowler's game. Going into next year, I'll be curious if the format has any changes, especially with the title match structuring based off the reactions of everyone else. But regardless of the formatting issues, congratulations to every single winner crowned this week, and congratulations to every bowler who even made it to Junior Gold, because just enduring the 16 games of qualifying for this event alone is something that a lot of youth bowlers do not get to experience, and Junior Gold is just something different. It's hard to put into words how exciting the tournament can feel, even if you are at the bottom of the leaderboard. But I'm running out of time today, so let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, and leave a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thank you to my members on screen, and I'll see you guys next time.